The second half of the 90s belonged to teenage slasher movies. After Scream exploded at the box office, Hollywood suddenly decided audiences apparently couldn't get enough of watching attractive teenagers get chased around by psychos with sharp objects. Every single year, theaters were flooded with copycats, knockoffs, and totally not Scream movies. And because all of them needed young actors, the genre basically became a star-making factory. One or two future celebrities would pop out of every new slasher, and most of them disappeared almost immediately afterward. Some burned out so fast that audiences barely even remembered their names. But there were a few exceptions, and today we're talking about one of them. Jennifer Love Hewitt started acting in the early 90s. At first, it was small parts in movies like Sister Act 2, plus some larger roles in straight-to-video films that mostly existed to fill late-night cable schedules. For a while, nobody really paid much attention to her. That finally changed with House Arrest. The movie itself wasn't some huge hit, but it gave Jennifer something important: a real theatrical release people had actually seen. And with that on her resume, she went to audition for I Know What You Did Last Summer. What's funny is that screenwriter Kevin Williamson had actually written I Know What You Did Last Summer before Scream. But back then, nobody wanted it. Slasher movies were considered dead, studios wanted nothing to do with teenagers running around screaming for 90 minutes, and the script just sat there collecting dust. Then Scream happened. Dimension Films took a gamble on Williamson's script, paid him $400,000 for it, and in 1996, that gamble paid off in a massive way. The first Scream cost $14 million and made $173 million worldwide. Overnight, Kevin Williamson became one of the hottest writers in Hollywood, and suddenly the script nobody wanted a year earlier turned into gold. Sony rushed in and grabbed I Know What You Did Last Summer for $1 million. Jennifer Love Hewitt originally auditioned for a different role than the one she ended up playing. The filmmakers actually wanted Melissa Joan Hart at first, but Hart turned the movie down because, according to her, it felt too much like a Scream ripoff. Jennifer didn't know that. Sarah Michelle Gellar did. Gellar came into auditions fully intending to replace Hart, and according to Hollywood legend, the auditions went so badly the producers basically hated both actresses. Then someone suggested they switch roles. They auditioned again, and suddenly both got hired. Honestly, the producers got ridiculously lucky with this cast in general. People would later call it one of the best slasher casts ever assembled. Ryan Philippe wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. He desperately wanted the role, but he completely didn't fit the character on paper. The part was written as this big football player type, and Ryan looked more like somebody who got shoved into lockers by football players. But the producers couldn't find anyone better, and eventually the director said, "Fine, bring back the skinny kid who actually seems excited to be here." Before release, the movie also ran into a controversy that somehow didn't become a huge scandal at the time. Author Lois Duncan absolutely hated what Hollywood had done to her book. In the original novel, yes, there's a creepy guy threatening teenagers, but nobody actually dies. The studio basically bought the rights, quietly turned it into a body count slasher movie, and then pretended they hadn't radically changed everything. Unsurprisingly, Duncan was not thrilled. None of it mattered financially, though. I Know What You Did Last Summer made $125 million on a $17 million budget, and overnight the entire cast became famous. This should have been the beginning of Jennifer Love Hewitt becoming a huge movie star. Instead, it somehow became the beginning of one of the weirdest streaks of career choices imaginable. And maybe choices isn't even fair. Maybe her agent was cursed. Maybe Hollywood just didn't know what to do with her. Maybe she simply had terrible luck. But whatever the reason, Jennifer immediately followed up her giant slasher hit with a teen comedy called Trojan War. And no, not Troy. That would have actually helped her career. We're talking about a completely different movie from Warner Brothers. Trojan War became infamous because test audiences hated it so much, the studio practically threw the film into witness protection. This $17 million movie was released on exactly one screen. And during its entire first week, the movie made $300. At that point, you're not even dealing with a box office flop anymore. That's performance art. The studio immediately dumped the movie onto video and tried to pretend it never happened. Jennifer then somehow followed that up with another comedy called Telling You. Compared to Trojan War, this thing was basically Avengers Endgame. It made around $3,000 in theaters, which honestly feels less like a theatrical release and more like somebody accidentally left the projector on. Audience ratings hovered around 4 out of 10, which in internet review language usually translates to please stop making these. After back-to-back cinematic disasters, Jennifer finally got a little lucky with Can't Hardly Wait. Yes, it was another teen comedy because apparently Hollywood legally couldn't offer her anything else at this point. But at least this one actually made money. On a $10 million budget, the movie earned $25 million and developed a decent cult following over time. Jennifer even got an MTV Movie Awards nomination out of it. Then came I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which honestly sounds less like a movie title and more like a threat. The sequel wasn't technically a disaster, but the box office still dropped hard. The first movie made around $70 million domestically, while the sequel fell to $40, despite costing more to produce. Critics tore it apart, audiences weren't much kinder, and the franchise quickly headed into straight-to-video territory. Jennifer wisely stayed away from the next sequel. What makes this whole run even crazier is that all 4 of these movies came out within basically a single year. Jennifer Love Hewitt somehow managed to appear in 3 movies back-to-back that both critics and audiences absolutely trashed. Honestly, it's kind of amazing her movie career survived this period at all. But instead of becoming more careful with projects, she somehow kept walking directly into more disasters. Her next movie, The Suburbans, pulled in an absolutely earth-shattering $11,000 at the box office and landed another 4 out of 10 audience score. Around the same time, Jennifer made her first serious attempt to establish herself on television with the series Time of Your Life. The reviews were actually slightly better than what her movies were getting at the time, which was probably not hard, but the network still canceled the show after 1 season. At this point, Jennifer seemingly realized Hollywood might be trying to send her a message, so she started choosing projects a little more carefully. That led to the Audrey Hepburn story. Since it wasn't a major studio film, it mostly flew under the radar, but critics at least noticed her performance this time around, even if many of them still weren't exactly convinced by her acting. Audiences, however, were noticeably more forgiving. Then came Heartbreakers, and this was one of those rare moments where Jennifer Love Hewitt's career actually stumbled into something resembling good luck. Well, depending on how you define good luck. On the bright side, she got the biggest paycheck of her entire career, $4 million. On the less bright side, she basically got that money because the movie was falling apart in real time and the producers were desperately trying to stop the entire production from bursting into flames. Heartbreakers had already spent years trapped in development hell. Originally, the studio wanted Cher and Jennifer Aniston as the leads. Both actresses dropped out for different reasons. Later on, Alicia Silverstone and Glenn Close were cast instead, while the director attached to the project was Doug Liman, who would later go on to make The Bourne Identity and Edge of Tomorrow. But right before filming started, Silverstone left because of creative differences. The producers tried to replace her with Sarah Michelle Gellar, but she was busy with other projects and couldn't make it work. Then Doug Liman walked away. Then Glenn Close left too. At this point, the movie was basically being held together with duct tape and panic attacks. So the producers quickly rushed in Sigourney Weaver, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Gene Hackman, and Ray Liotta, while directing duties were handed over to David Merkin from The Simpsons. And somehow, against all odds, the movie actually got made. Jennifer also accidentally created the single most expensive visual effect in the entire film. No, not some giant explosion. Not CGI destruction. A hoodie. During filming, it was freezing cold, so Jennifer tied a sweatshirt around her waist between takes. Nobody realized how much it appeared on camera until post-production, when the editors discovered the sweatshirt was impossible to crop around. So the studio ended up spending a ridiculous amount of money digitally removing Jennifer's sweatshirt from scene after scene. Somewhere out there is probably a visual effects artist whose entire resume includes erased sweatshirt from romantic comedy. At the box office, Heartbreakers didn't exactly become a disaster, but it definitely underperformed. Against a $35 million budget, the movie made $57 million worldwide, and audience reactions were mostly a shrug. Then Jennifer teamed up with Jackie Chan for the Tuxedo. And on paper, this should have worked. Jackie Chan in the early 2000s was huge in America. Hollywood basically looked at him and said, "What if we let this man carry every action comedy for 5 straight years?" Unfortunately, the Tuxedo ended up making only a little over $100 million worldwide against a $60 million budget, which sounds decent until you remember studios expected a lot more from Jackie Chan at the time. Critics absolutely destroyed the movie too. Ironically, the best reviewed project Jennifer made during this period was probably If Only. Audiences genuinely loved it, and to this day it still has surprisingly strong ratings. The problem was almost nobody actually saw it in theaters because the movie barely got a real wide release. Then in 2004, Jennifer finally landed a legitimate mainstream box office hit with Garfield. Although in Hollywood there's kind of an unwritten rule that when respected actors start showing up in movies based on newspaper comic strip cats, something weird is usually happening with their career. The movie made money, but critics tore it apart, and Bill Murray has spent years publicly talking about Garfield like it personally ruined his life. By 2005, Jennifer had largely shifted over to television, and honestly, TV ended up treating her much better than Hollywood ever did. Ghost Whisperer survived for 5 seasons, which was already more stability than most of her movie career had. While she was busy with the show, several older film projects she had made years earlier finally escaped whatever studio vault they'd been trapped inside. One of them was Shortcut to Happiness, directed by Alec Baldwin. The movie went through full-blown development hell. The studio went bankrupt, the rights changed hands, and the film was eventually released 6 years after filming had wrapped. Alec Baldwin hated the final cut so much that he demanded his name be removed from the credits entirely. According to Baldwin, the editing process turned the movie into something unrecognizable. Audiences responded to all this chaos by giving the film $600,000 worldwide, which for a $30 million movie is less of a box office run and more of a cry for help. Then there was Delgo. This animated movie had already been completed back in 2002, but for years nobody seemed entirely sure what to do with it. Jennifer voiced one of the characters, and when the $40 million film finally reached theaters, it achieved one of the worst wide-release openings in box office history. After Ghost Whisperer was eventually canceled because of declining ratings, Jennifer mostly settled into supporting and recurring television roles. One of those projects was the TV movie The Client List, which actually earned her a Golden Globe nomination. A couple of years later, Lifetime turned it into a series starring Jennifer herself. The show lasted 2 seasons before suddenly getting canceled, even though ratings reportedly weren't the problem. According to rumors, the real issue was creative conflict between Jennifer and the network. Since she was also an executive producer, she wanted the series to move in a different direction creatively. And allegedly, that different direction involved giving a much bigger role to her real-life husband, Brian Hallisey, who already appeared on the show in a supporting role. For whatever reason, the network wasn't interested, the two sides couldn't reach an agreement, and the show ended there. Today, Jennifer Love Hewitt stars on the fairly successful series 911, and recently she returned to the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise during Hollywood's current obsession with reviving every horror property from the late 90s and early 2000s. And honestly, it would be unfair to say her career failed. Jennifer Love Hewitt absolutely became famous. She absolutely had hits. She absolutely built a successful television career. But there's also this weird alternate universe version of Hollywood where a few different movie choices turn her into one of the defining A-list actresses of the 2000s instead of somebody audiences mostly remember through nostalgia for late 90s. That was Frame Back. Subscribe for more rewinds and see you on the next one.